So we can try another gram-gram conversion using chemical equations. There's a town just down the road from us called Ironton, and Ironton was famous because it took iron 3 oxide and turned it into iron. And we can go ahead and we can calculate how many grams of iron can we make from 454 grams. That is a pound of iron 3 oxide. Same way as before, we go ahead and we kind of set up our lines. So we've got moles and grams, and we're going to start off with 454 grams. And it would help if I could write 454, there we go, of iron 3 oxide, and we're going to convert it to moles of iron 3 oxide. So that is step 1. And then we're going to go to grams of iron. So we need to go all the way over to the iron. So we need to know how many moles of iron. And then we can go all the way down to the gram line. And that is our third step. So what do we need? So this is step 1. We're going to need the molar mass of iron 3 oxide. The 3 refers to the charge on the iron, not the number of irons in the formula. We just add up the weights of 2 irons and 3 oxygens. We're there. Step 2, we just use the coefficients in the ballast equation. So we got a 2 in front of the iron oxide, and we got a 4 in front of the iron. So we just use our fingers again. It's very helpful if you have fingers. If not, you just imagine the fingers and use virtual fingers instead. And the third step is we're going to convert moles to grams, just using the molar mass. And since it's just iron, we can actually just look it up off the periodic table. That's extremely cool. So Fe2O3, we got Fe2O3. It's made up of 2 irons and 3 oxygens, and we have to go ahead and look those up. So we got 2 irons. Iron on my handy dandy periodic table is 55.85, and oxygen is 16.00. And if we sum those together, we get the mass of 1 mole of iron oxide in grams, which is 159. It would help if I wasn't using the erase tool. 159.7 grams for every mole of iron oxide. Step number 2 is going to involve some fingers. So let's whip out our fingers. So there's iron and iron there, and iron oxide here. So that is 2 to 4. So let's go ahead and take that ratio. 2 moles of iron 3 oxide begets 4 moles of iron. And we're almost writing over our Ironton pictures there. Sorry if you're an Ironton resident. Step 3 is the molar mass of iron. Since iron is just a single element, then it is just 55.85 grams for every mole of iron. So that should give us an easy way to line up our calculation. So let's try and do that. So I shoved everything up in the top left corner. I hope that's okay. So that's our 454 grams of iron oxide. And step number 1 was we're going to convert that to moles. So we put the 159.7 grams of iron oxide on the bottom, and the 1 mole we put on the top. And I am fairly obsessive about units here, because units will save the day. If you get the units wrong, the problem's wrong, and the units are a great way to keep track of that. Step number 2 was that finger pointing, right? So we pointed the 2 in the 4 in our equation. So the 2 moles of iron 3 oxide, and they go on the bottom because they got to cancel with the ones on the top, right? So we pointed with our fingers, right? So our other finger pointed at the 4 iron. So that's 4 moles of iron. And that is step number 2. So now we get to do the final step. So step number 3 was that step where we changed the moles of iron into grams of iron. And we know that 1 mole of iron weighs 55.85 grams, which is just really what it says underneath the element symbol on the periodic chart. So moles have to go on the bottom because they got to cancel, right? So moles of iron, plop, they go away, and we get the grams. So 55.85 grams of iron on the tippy top. And that is the end of the problem. All we need now is a calculator. So let me try this on my calculator. And on my calculator, I get a very long number, but in terms of significant figures, we probably can't write down all of those numbers, can we? So that has 3, 4, infinite, 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 infinite. That's a lot of infinites, but not an infinite number of infinites. And there's 4. So 4, 4, 3. So 3 is the worst one. So my calculator says 317.5. That rounds to 318. And the units, right? Everything's canceled apart from grams of iron. So our pound of iron can essentially make, a pound of iron oxide can essentially make 7/10 of a pound of iron. So that's kind of cool.